We are CTRLZ, and today we will be talking about our beta presentation of our project. Now for our agenda, we'll be going over the project description, the demonstration of the different scenes, schedule and the next steps, and our conclusion. So, for our overview for the project, our project is an interactive virtual reality retelling of the indigenous story, The Sacred Meeting Place. It will be a web XR application that will enable a virtual reality experience inside a web browser or using a VR headset.
For the cave environment, the cave model, the owl model, and the cave drawing models for each of the 5 stories have been completed. So when the user first enters the VR experience, they will find themselves in a really large cave. Inside this cave, there is an owl spirit that would be seen flying nearby. When the user approaches the owl will lead the user through a series of cave drawings that will represent the different stories. The user enters a story by clicking on the associated cave drawing, which will transport them to a world where the story takes place. Once the user completes the story and then returns to the cave, they're able to approach the owl again in order to be led to the next story. For the story How the Beaver Got Its Tail, the beaver model and the muskrat model have been completed. Our plan for this story is to have various locations that represent the different events of the story, in which the user will visit each of these locations. So in terms of the basic mechanics, we've finished programming a path that the user will follow to the different locations, as well as event functions that will trigger once the user enters the specific location that they've been led to. Currently, we are using one beaver model as a placeholder for these different locations. For the final, we plan to have environment assets created for the different locations. The first location is going to be in an area within a forest, where the muskrat will be seen. This will serve as an introduction to the muskrat character. The second location is going to be in a river where the muskrat's flooded home is. The third and the final location will be the beaver's home, where the beaver and the muskrat will be seen switching tails.
For the Thunderbird story, we have created the Thunderbird model, and for the weather, we are planning to repurpose the code that we are using for the medicine wheel story. For the Pakalak time story, we have completed the general environment and assets. For the final, the ice fishing interaction will be implemented. This will involve having the users be able to hold a fishing rod in their hands and casting line into the water with a hand lowering motion. Then they will reel in the fish by making a pulling up gesture with their hand.
Overview of progress on naming ceremony. The naming ceremony story currently has only one simple body model for the circle of elders. For the final, we are planning to add more textures and variety to the models, as well as different movement and animations. We also have sound effects such as turtle shell shaking and chanting in Ojibwe, audio from an actual naming ceremony. In terms of interaction, the user will be surrounded by the circle of elders in a forest environment. where they will be able to walk around and explore the surrounding area. When clicking on the people, it would display dialogue and information about the naming ceremony.
We completed a medicine wheel model and implemented the weather systems. The user will find themselves in a thunderstorm, standing on one of the 4 quadrants of the medicine wheel. When the user uses their controller or mouse to click another quadrant, it represents that they have stepped into another quadrant, and suddenly the weather changes. When the user stands on the 2nd quadrant of the wheel, the storm around them will turn into rainy weather. When the user stands on the 3rd quadrant of the wheel, the rain will stop and the weather will only be cloudy. When the user stands on the 4th quadrant, the weather will become sunny. The activations of all quadrants represent balance of all 4 parts of the wheels.
In terms of moving forward, we are aiming to have almost everything implemented by the end of March. All assets will be completed, modeled, and textured, and the basic interactions for each world will be implemented.